I'm Patrick Murphy-Racey, a Sony artisan of imagery. I'm here to talk to you a little bit, and I do mean a little bit, about the a9II, which I have here in my hands. This is the brand new camera from Sony that was announced just this morning at 9 o'clock Eastern. The a9II is the next progression in Sony's top-of-the-line flagship sports camera. Since sports is what I do, I'm pretty pumped about it. I made a few notes. First of all, this is a pre-review. My review will come only after I've shot the camera at many games, doing portraits, all kinds of stuff. So for right now, it looks the same as an A9 originally. It doesn't look a whole lot different. The only thing is this locking exposure compensation dial, bigger buttons, a little bit different switch here on the left side, but it looks just about the same. It's the same sensor that's inside. It's 24 megapixel, unlike the rumor sites that said it was going to be 36 megapixel. It is still 24. I have no problem with that. 24 is a massive file for a sports photographer. It's the same 20 frames per second. The motor drive didn't get faster. There were rumors about that too, but that's not what happened. So what's new? What's new? And what's new that matters is maybe a better question. First of all, larger buttons. The ergonomics and the overall feel of this camera tell me that not only has Sony been listening, but we have finally arrived at a legitimate, real sports camera. The A7R4 was definitely the precursor to this because it's the same. But this thing with a grip on it feels like $1 million if you're used to a 1DX or a D5 or D4, whatever. So I'm really excited about that. The form and function of a camera that for someone to shoot sports is a big deal because no one spends more time with a camera in our hands than a sports photographer. Second thing is there is a new front-end LSI. Now what the heck is that? It's more Sony speak. The front-end LSI is basically processing speed and power. So this camera has a much faster front-end LSI. It's going to also allow for slightly better low light quality, which is great because the A9, the original A9 is killer in low light. It's amazing. So I'm all for that. So its processing ability should be better. It should write to disk faster. It should do a lot of things quicker. It has anti-flicker in it, which the A9 does not have. This is a big deal. Some lights pulse on sports fields. They're going like this all the time. The human eye doesn't see it, but the sensor does. And when the camera fires at inopportune times, when that light is not at its peak, you get a variance of color, which is why you'll shoot a motor drive burst of maybe 7 frames. You'll have yellow, green, blue, off-white, orange, and then finally a white one, and then it'll go back to some other horrible color. The higher your shutter speed is, the more you get in variance, and this is very frustrating. So the fact that the new a9II has anti-flicker is a big deal. The only caveat there is that will slow you down, and it doesn't slow you down a little bit. At 20 frames a second, you're just ripping along. Once you activate the anti-flicker feature, it drops you down to 10 frames a second. Now, I must point out that you might say, well, the A7III and the A7R3 have anti-flicker, and I can go 10 frames a second, but you actually can't. The A7III and the A7R3 slow down to about 7.5 frames per second when they're doing anti-flicker. So it's still an improvement, and I'm really glad to have it because sometimes it's just horrific in certain like aquatic centers or wherever. Usually it's an older place that has half the lights burned out, and it's bad news. It's really great because it's going to save us a lot of time in post when we work on our pictures. This camera is the very first camera Sony's ever made to have the voice memo built into the body. So what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to shoot a picture of something, and then you're going to be able to push and hold this center button, and you'll be able to record with the internal microphone and give the caption information, and then you'll be able to retrieve that later, and then you'll, on deadline, be able to get those captions out quicker. Canon and Nikon people have been doing this for years, and Sony finally has arrived with the voice memo feature, which I couldn't be happier about. There's a much improved FTP interface. This camera is going to be much more friendly to work with and get to know with your IT people. So if you're trying to shoot on the basketball court during the game and send images from the court, this is going to be a little easier way to go. It has double the speed of Wi-Fi, so it's much faster to move pictures, noticeably so. So that's going to be a big deal. And then finally, it has a 10 frame per second mechanical shutter, which is going to be great news for those of us that shoot lots of strobe basketball, hockey. This is a very capable camera. It's going to be the same exact shutter that's in the A7R4, which is really, really quiet. But most importantly, it shoots 10 frames a second, and it's right now. So the lag is gone. So it's pretty awesome. The last thing is, this is a pre-review. So all the things I'm saying, even though I have the camera in my hands, I've not shot it yet. That will happen in about 4 hours because I'm shooting a high school game that's on ESPN tonight. And I have lined up 3 football games in 3 days. So I'll be shooting here. I'll be shooting, I think, in Mississippi. And then I'm going to shoot hopefully a college game down in Pensacola. So I'm going to kind of reserve my sort of overall review until I've had a chance to shoot a whole bunch of football. I'd like to shoot some soccer. I'm going to also shoot with lights and strobes and do some portrait work and just kind of get an overall feel for how the camera is living with it day to day. So at a future point, I will do another real review, but right now it's just a pre-review, just the day it was announced. But I'm pumped. A9II is here. The rumors are done now. Now we actually have something to shoot with. I'm not sure what the delivery date's going to be, but hopefully it'll be November or sooner. And that's all I've got to say for this video. So I'm Patrick Murphy-Racey, Sony Artisan. Thanks for watching.